Can you do your own spray foam insulation?
So we're upstairs in my house, and this is where I have done the most work as a DIY, as a fixer-upper. In addition to drywalling, the biggest task really, and definitely the most expensive single thing, was putting in spray foam. And I did it myself. So let me talk to you about whether or not it was worth it and how it's working now 10 years, 11 years in. So spray foam is one of the best answers to insulation. Getting it put in your house, I think, is a great idea. There are areas I'm still looking to put it in my first floor. On our second floor, when we remodeled it and we really gutted it and redid everything. And so one of the big issues was we're building right up against the ceiling in the attic. And the only way to really insulate this was to use spray foam. And so I started looking into spray foam and how much it would cost to do an encapsulation. So that's what I did with my attic space, because otherwise we would not have had room in our attic to have any living space. I used Foam-It Green, and I was trying to get 3 inches of closed cell spray foam put in to give me a strong R value. And it was the single hardest part of remodeling, I would say, because I had to do it all in one day, and it was not easy. It was a very difficult space to crawl around in. So it went on well. I think the temperature hurt it a bit. It was a little bit too cold in our space for what needed to happen that day, but it still did well. I was able to get it finished. It was instantly better. So it was in November that I first put it on. And then we continued with the work. And I really wanted to get it on before winter. But being an old house, there was really no insulation at all in the attic. Putting any insulation at all was going to help. But the spray foam instantly turned it into a very comfortable space all winter. Remodeling continued. Warmer spring days, I started to realize that probably 3 inches of closed cell spray foam was not going to be enough. And the reason was you could feel the heat on a hot sunny day through the spray foam. And I think the spray foam is really good, but it needed a little something else. And there was no way I was going to spray foam again. And even the expense, we had already busted the budget. And so I came back and decided I'm going to put some bats over it. So the bat that would fit in order to get a little bit more insulation in the space. So being an old house, I only have 2x6s up here. So that's just not a lot of space. So after I got close to 3 inches with the spray foam, I only had then about 3 inches to play with in terms of getting insulation put in. I did come back and insulate with bats the entire attic space before we drywalled. Try to bump the R value up just a little bit more and give it some more insulation. It has worked pretty well. I would give it a B in terms of a grade for insulation. I've done a video on this, but we had a really nice HVAC system installed, which has a separate temperature for the upstairs and the downstairs and can separate what it's sending. So that has really done well, because we can focus in the summer on keeping the upstairs cooler. And then in the winter, we could almost get away without running any heat upstairs, because it is well insulated and heat rises. The question is it worth it? I remodeled my own house for the most part. I had a lot of experts come in to do things for me and give me advice. But I did most of the work myself with lots of help from people who I could not have done without. Of all the work that I did, the spray foam, while it is spray foaming itself is not hard. Prep for the spray foam, sealing off with plastic, wearing the garb, which the respirator, I felt like basically broke my nose all day long, and then applying the spray foam evenly in hard to reach places. Those are hard things. So everybody you see putting on spray foam on videos, they're doing it on a nice flat wall where they're just, it's easy. Sure, that's easy. But when you have to crawl into an attic, into the corners to do spray foam, that's hard. And it's hard to get it there and to get it even. And then you're moving the material. If you're doing it yourself, then you're using tanks. And with Foam-It Green, you're moving those tanks. You have 2 tanks that combine, and you have to move those wherever you're going. And so my job took a total, I think it was 20 tanks total. You're moving those around. Every time one runs out, then you have to set up a new one and connect it and move it. Looking back, it's what we chose to do because the job and the price. And again, we were trying to pay cash out of pocket as we went. And so the job was a difficult one, but it's hard for me to imagine ever doing it again. And if I get anything spray foamed in my downstairs walls, it will be by someone else. That is basically my take. How is it held up? Well, I'm going to show you a little bit of what it looks like today, and it's as good as the day I put it in.
All right, so this is a spot I'm showing you because it's one of the few places where you can actually still see the spray foam, because then I came and covered it with an R13 insulation, and the spray foam is it's been super. I mean, it's just when you put it up there and it's so solid and so sturdy. I really do feel like it adds something to your home's stability, as well as the moisture barrier and everything else that it gives you. I would guess that I have an R21 in my spray foam, and then plus an R13 gives me something of an R34. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about whether or not this is a good idea, and I know there's a lot of talk about do you really get an R13 from the batt insulation? So, but I think it's definitely better than what it would have been with just the spray foam, especially being against my attic. I just think that there's a heat radiation that you get, especially with, you probably don't see many of these, but this is my actual inside roof. And then in between these, you can see the lining beneath the shingle. You can see as you go deeper here, just that I did batts because I did an encapsulation. So there's spray foam all the way down to where the roof rafters connect. And so the reason there's a blank here is that here we are looking at a place where that's actually not the roof. So there's actually a connector here for a bit of a dormer. And so that part of the roof actually has spray foam. And so that's where I stopped here. I didn't want to waste anything. This is actually the side of the house that doesn't get the afternoon sun. And I don't feel any temperature difference at all. Today is close to 90 degrees outside. And in this part of the attic, it's not getting, of course, I do have my AC running through here, so it may be leaking a little bit into this, but it's not hot on this side. The other side is going to be pretty hot. If I open that attic door where the afternoon sun is hitting, pretty warm on that side. You're not going to create an attic that doesn't need any AC at all. But in this case, 11 years in, I'm happy with what I have. And was it worth the money? Yes. Was it worth the effort? It's still hard for me to say that. And I know that I would not be able to physically do it again. So I'll finish by saying, in hindsight, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I saved the money. It was a really difficult job. Knowing what I know now, if I had this ahead of me in the future, I wouldn't do it. So I did it. I'm glad I did it, but I wouldn't do it again. If that's a helpful answer. The stuff works great. I do recommend it, but doing it yourself, if your job is big, is really difficult.